And reset. Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People and newly awake man. It's 5 in the morning here in Los Angeles. It's about around 10 last night. Pretty early. Slept pretty well. I slept out here till like 3 in the morning. And I slept in there until like 4:30, and then I slept out here again for another half hour. But I found it strange because I woke up this morning, and what was in my head first thing when I woke up this morning? The scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Ferris Bueller's friend is pretending to be Ferris Bueller's girlfriend's dad, and he calls the school, and that principal guy, who it turns out is actually like a kind of pedo or something, I think. But anyway, um, he says to that guy, that actor who's playing the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he says to him, after they play this trick where he thinks he's got Ferris Bueller caught, that it's Ferris Bueller imitating somebody, and then Ferris Bueller called on the other line, and he's like, "Oh shit, it's not Ferris Bueller, it's actually that girl's dad." And then the guy's talking to the Principal Rooney. He goes, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." Why did I wake up this morning with that scene in my head? I don't know. But the first thing I thought this morning when I woke up was, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." He's got this very affected way of talking, highly trimmer, because he's trying to imitate, like a grown up or whatever. But it wasn't that I woke up with a scene in my head so much as the sound of that expression. And then it took me a minute to figure out where it was from, It took me a minute to figure out where it was from. I could hear the sound of the character in the movie going, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." He kind of does that out of the side of his mouth, It took me a second to figure out what it was from. And I remember, oh yeah, it's from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Because of a recent experience with the call? No, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think I referenced that quote yesterday at some point during the day, without recognizing what it was from. I think I said, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." Yesterday, I was like joking around about something, not recognizing what it was. That it was from something specific. And then I woke up this morning with the sound of the specific thing I had referenced ringing in my head, and realizing, oh, that's a quote from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. No, I'm not afraid of Democracy Manifest. I'm not aware of it. I am aware of Manifest Destiny. 9 times? I don't know what that means. I watched that movie within the last year for the first time in a really long time. It's actually a rather slow film. In some sense, you kind of appreciate sure, Skager. In some sense, you kind of appreciate the pacing of it. Like, movies back in the day gave the audience and the actors a lot more room to do subtle stuff, it seems like, there wasn't, people had lower expectations about about how narratives were constructed. You know, they were willing to wait for movies to get from point A to point B in not the best it's not the best, yeah. If I remember correctly, I looked up the video who played Ed Rooney. Well, I'm not gonna watch it right now, Skigger. And I think I remember reading something about him getting arrested for some sort of sex crime or something. But I don't remember. I could be just totally slandering the guy, so I don't exactly remember. But I remember researching that the guy who played that principal because he was quite a prolific actor back in the 80s. So I have a lot of sort of memories of that actor without really ever thinking about him as a kid. I saw him a lot, you know, because he was always in supporting roles. So I got curious and Googled him. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but in the process of researching him, I learned a fact that made me find him reprehensible. I don't remember exactly what it was. Yeah, he was also in Beetlejuice, right? I think he's a good actor. I think he did a good job as the principal. I think he did a good job in Beetlejuice. No, I've not tried the KFC gravy burger. I didn't know such a thing existed. I'm excited to hear that it exists, though. He was the villain in The Golden Child. I'm pretty sure I did see The Golden Child in the theater when it came out, but I have zero recollection of anything about what the movie's about. I remember it being bad, though. It had Eddie Murphy in it, right? There was another really bad movie that Eddie Murphy was in. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like one of the first movies he made after like his big Beverly Hills Cop success, and it was absolutely fucking terrible. And I remember it being terrible mostly because he then went back on hosted Saturday Night Live after that and made jokes about how no, it wasn't 48 Hours. That was another hit of his that was considered good and was generally quite popular. But it was one where he was driving around in a tank or something, and he was making jokes about like him reading the script and going, "God, this is fucking garbage." And then, wait, how much money are you gonna give me? But wait, how much money? Okay. So I don't remember what the movie was called, but I remember Eddie Murphy's opening monologue from a Saturday Night Live making fun of the terrible movie he had just been in and saying basically he knew it was terrible, but they offered him so much money that he just did it anyway. Which I think is such a fucking cop-out. If you're going to make something terrible, don't try to, you know, jump out of all accountability for it like that. But of course, in general, I don't think Eddie Murphy I don't think Eddie Murphy has aged very well, you know? It's like his humor to me, well, there's some of his stuff has aged well. Like the stuff he did on Saturday Night Live. Okay, well, if you see a kid driving themselves to school, Gen X, you get out there on that road and you say, "Hey, you're too young to be driving." No, I think he made the smartest approach from an FE perspective and making those jokes and distancing himself from the crap, right? But I also find it in retrospect disingenuous. Like he's claiming that his artistic vision is perfect, but his principles are iffy or whatever, so to speak, you know. I don't buy that. I know Eddie Murphy's artistic vision is very far from perfect. He has lots of misses. So I just don't buy it, you know. But where's the Hammurabi's glue? Here it is. So thank you, Trimmer. Hi, Kenton Davy. You're the guy whose name always makes me think of a jazz piano player. Do I dig function dimensionality? No. Function dimensionality is a wrong attempt to account for what I correctly accounted for, namely the agent object subject distinction. So it's like people say, sociologists try to say, well, you can use certain functions in 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions, right? That's not true. Oh, we did talk. Yeah, I haven't recognized your name, but it's not from that conversation that makes me think it's because Kenton is a famous jazz name. I don't know who it is, Stan Kenton or something like that, who's a famous jazz player. I probably had this conversation also a few months ago, but my SI is a little, yeah. So, yeah, that's the kind of terrible music my dad likes. Stan Kenton. I was trying to explain to Rachel was asking, what's the most ESTJ band, which prompted me to put my poll up, like, what's the most ESTJ band? And I said, well, like, here's the kind of crap my dad listened to. And I YouTube searched Spyro Gyra. Like, here's a concert I had to sit through as a child. You ever heard Spyro Gyra? Like, especially like 1980s era Spyro Gyra. It makes me want to vomit blood all over the place. I had to sit through those fucking concerts. You know, it's like, come on, Eric, we're going to see Al Jarreau. Oh, fantastic, Dad. Fantastic. Another Al Jarreau concert? Pinch me. Am I dreaming? Oh my God, Dad, seriously? Hiroshima's playing at the Hollywood Bowl? We've got to go watch that clusterfuck of technique with no intuition. I'm so excited. Is there any melodies in any of these purported songs that you listen to, Dad? Or is it just an exercise in being complicated? Yeah, Shrek was a huge hit. You know, it's funny. I don't always remember that voice acting work counts too. You know, it's like some people have made a large career out of being a voice actor, much bigger than their face actor career. Like, for example, there's this comedian girl who's kind of like got a funny looking face, kind of, or something. I don't know how to describe her. She was like on a Daily Show maybe briefly, and it's not Samantha Bee. It's like this younger chick than Samantha Bee, but she talks like that kind of, you know, like I forget what her name is. Anyway, I hear her in all kinds of voice acting things. She's in, I think, both BoJack Horseman and Bob's Burgers. I believe she plays the character of the ENTP girl who has the ears in Bob's Burgers. That lady, she's all over the place with voices, but she's also you can see her on camera on some things, but she's more voices than she is camera. So it's sometimes I forget that these actors who do like Shrek or something, it's totally a full blown acting gig. Just like if they're on camera, it's just you just don't tend to think of it as being them because it's a cartoon character, you know. Yeah, that lady does all kinds of voices. I'm also quite convinced that there's this one lady in Japan who has done at least 3 characters in the animes that I've watched. Whoever does the voice of Beatrice in Regarding Zero, Starting Over, Life in a New World, whatever lady does that voice, the lady who does the voice of Beatrice in that show, she's done a couple of other voices too. I'm quite convinced of it. I recognize her voice. And obviously I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know what. No, I just woke up at 5 a.m. I went to bed about 10, so I got a good night's sleep. It's been perfect. My management of Adderall this month, I feel kind of stunned. Like, oh, I'm making good SI decisions. How strange. The thing is, it's very important to take. There's this joke in one Rick and Morty episode where Rick's like, I can't tell if I'm taking too much Adderall or too little Adderall. I totally get that. I now understood. I now understand. I was taking too much Adderall. when I heard that joke in Rick and Morty, I was just like, ha ha ha. Oh my god, that is so fucking true. The guy who's in charge of who's like makes Rick and Morty, who himself is a drunk, obviously he's also an Adderall fiend. And having been in that place, it makes me pity the fuck out of him. That's a bad mix, man. That is a recipe for disaster. Oh, I don't listen to the dub, so I don't know. What's whose type? Oh, there's 2 of them? Dan Harmon's the drunk. Probably Justin Roiland's the speed freak. It's probably like that. I think Dan Harmon's in INFJ. That was 3 really fucking terrible hours when I was 11 years old at the Hollywood Bowl. And when I was 12 years old. And probably 13 too, probably 10 too. I was taking, one nice thing about my parents is they included me in everything. Okay. That's great. So wherever they traveled, I traveled. Wherever shows they went to, I went to. Usually that's a good thing. But Dad was in charge of the live music we saw. I mean, Dad was in charge of everything. Dad picked everything that we did. Lots of things we did were fun for the whole family. Spyro Gyro at the Bowl. That is, I'm sure, great for my dad and my mom and their couple friend with their picnic basket and their box at the Hollywood Bowl and their Chardonnay and their olives and their brie and shit like that, right? I'm sure they had a wonderful time. I was too young to drink. I just had to sit there and listen to that shit. With no alcohol to ease the pain. The thing is, I didn't complain about it. Again, NI ignoring and FI polar. I just was like, I kind of tried to like it, I guess, for a while. And I just couldn't, I kept going back to the good music that was in my dad's massive collection. He did have some good music. Yeah, well, I also saw Miles Davis in concert. A lot of other jazz people that if I was a jazz head, I'd probably be like, I saw this guy in concert. I saw that guy in concert. But I hated the Miles Davis concert. It was better than the Al Jarreau part of it, maybe. Al Jarreau and Miles Davis played a concert together somewhere in LA sometime in the probably early 80s. I went to that concert. I remember it pretty well. Miles Davis played the whole concert with his back to the audience. Al Jarreau was like ESFPing the shit out of the crowd. He was just walking through everybody, touching people, and I'm Al Jarreau and I'm smooth as fuck. Have you ever heard of Al Jarreau? Who here has heard of Al Jarreau? My dad was a big Al Jarreau fan. I mean, maybe that has a little bit also to do with my dad's lack of racism, because he some of the people he admired the most were Black jazz musicians, and he also played in the army band. Well, at least there was at least one self-identified Black person in the army band, because my dad has this story about him, the guy who got so drunk one night that he fell off of the back of the stage when he was playing in the jazz band. So I guess the army band had like 2 jobs. They went there and they played like a show of like marching band stuff in like the town square or something, and during the day, and then the French people would come and watch it, I guess. I don't know. It seems weird to me. Like, can you imagine, like, you're in this French village and you get an announcement, the U.S. Army's coming. Why? To play us a song. Why? We don't know. Have they given us any reason? Oh, yeah, my dad, big Herb Albert fan. Big Herb Albert fan, for sure. Big Stan Getz fan. Frank, I think there was a jazz artist named Frank James, wasn't there? Or I think does he have another last name? A Memento Mountain Mori? I don't know what that means, but I'm curious. Piao? 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 And Well, in fact, if you say "piao" when you take action, it doubles the impact. That's a good, yeah. You remember when he had 5 digits? I remember when he had 4 digits. Ooh, death. Oh, death. Won't you pass me over to another year? Meow, 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 meow. Bum ba dum ba da da dum bum bum. Bum 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 ba dun dun. Bum ba dun da 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 dun dun da. Ba dun da 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 do do. Oh, death. Oh, death. Won't you pass me over for another year? Bum 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 bum. Isn't that a nice song? I like songs that um, appeal to staying alive longer a lot more than songs that are like live fast, die young, right? I like songs that don't say live slow, but say live a very long time. That seems a much more sensible approach to a message from a first song. That's why sometimes, in lieu of prayer, for example, I might say, "Dear God, sometimes I feel like being wispy, and once in a while I feel like being dry. But we're doomed and we're drowned by this feeling we surround, so I hope that I get old before I die. Oh, it's a long, long rope they used to hang you soon, I hope. And I wonder why this hasn't happened, why? And I think of all the dirt that I'll be wearing for a shirt, and I hope that I get old before I die. Clear off the kitchen table, darling, for on the kitchen table I must lie. I'm just tired for my wife to sit in another life, and I hope that I get old before I die. Oh, it's a long, long rope they used to hang you soon, I hope. And I wonder why this hasn't happened, why? And I think about the dirt that I'll be wearing for a shirt, and I hope that I get old before I die." Isn't that a nice song? Isn't that a fun song? Do you agree with how it said the Bee Gees must have been cursed or bad luck? No. I find the Bee Gees sleazy. I don't know. I just find them sleazy. I find all the Gibbs sleazy. Like, I wouldn't want any one of those Gibbs near my woman. Right? How deep is your love? How deep is your... I tell you also, I find very sleazy the lead singer of Outfield. The band Outfield has a song. They have one hit. I just want to get your love tonight. I don't want to lose your love tonight. Watch the video of that song with the lead singer of Outfield and listen to the words of it. And look at this guy like smile at the girl in the video. He's go, "Oh my God, this guy is such a fucking sleazebag." I don't know. It's just, lead singer of the Outfield, dear lead singer of the Outfield. I do not know that you were a sleazebag. That was my takeaway from your video and your song. Okay. So, whatever your name is, lead singer of the Outfield, I know nothing about you. I cannot conclude that you were a sleazebag. But I can conclude this. that one song and video of yours that comprises your big hit, that song makes me think you're a sleazebag when I see the video with it, especially. I'd never really thought about the words before, but when you see the video, you think about the words with the video and this guy who's singing it, and you just go, oh. So when he says he's a woman's man, he's saying he's a ladies' man? Oh, he's saying he's a ladies' man. No, he's saying he's a ladies' man. The Bee Gees, yeah, they, in my opinion, I have the same takeaway from the Bee Gees as I have from the lead singer of the Outfield. However, I don't really care about that because I do concede the Bee Gees have some great songs or have some great songwriting moments anyway. You know, their approach to the like super high pitched harmonies and stuff was probably smart because it gave them a really distinct sound that popped in that historical moment of music development, I guess. And they had generally good harmonies and melodies and stuff for their hits anyway. So in that regard, I would say about the Bee Gees musically that I'm pretty impressed by them, by their best stuff. Pretty impressed by it, you know. But I also can tell you that in my mind, I have a bag of like sleazy rock musicians who I just think of as filthy, dirty people. It runs the gamut from that guy in Motley Crue who is with Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee is an example of just this somebody I just think of as a sleazy, dirty person. Jimmy Page, you think of him as a sleazy, dirty person. Robert Plant as well. Nikki Sixx. And the lead singer Outfield and the Bee Gees. Those are some people. Well, look, I'm not making stupid general claims like that. I'm telling you specifically which bands I perceive as having sleazy males in them who are dirty, sleazy people. So, I want people to watch the beginning of this Outfield video on their own and tell me, like, you don't go, ew. I mean, I don't know. It's not like me to naturally respond to things in that fashion at all. It has to really pop on an NI level for me to NI recognize, oh, a pattern in a person that makes me just go, ew. This does. I like the song too, is the other thing to note. I did before I saw this video anyway. I liked this song, well, I knew nothing about it and never thought about it before seeing this video. Which Olympic sport would you choose to dedicate your life to? Thank you, Rain. You're giving me a poll question. I appreciate it. Is that what you were trying to do? You win. You've successfully given me a great poll question. Poll. Soviet Russia makes Soviet Russia has forced you to devote your life to One Olympic sport. ... We do. Let's do a mix of summer and winter Olympics. So I'm going to go figure skating, gymnastics, hockey, famous Russian one, weightlifting. That can really drug you up good. Or what's another Soviet sport that they dominated in? What's another sport that that Soviet Russia always dominated in? Put fencing too. I'm looking for ones that Soviet Russia was big at, or possibly East Germany. Like weightlifting was a big East German event. Though East German women were incredibly strong. It was like, wow, look at that woman. Who are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the outfield guy? I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose it. That's why I like my girls a little bit older. That's that song, right? I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose your love tonight. And then another part of the song, he goes, the redeeming thing about it is sort of, I like my girl a little bit older because I want to hit it and quit it. I don't want it to take more than 2 hours of effort on my part. Well, I already have figure skating lessons, Mom. I have figure skating, gymnastics, hockey, weightlifting. We do curling. We could do synchronized swimming. Let's do synchronized swimming. That's a hilarious event in the Olympics. Why is that a sport? Synchronized swimming. It's more like it is specifically a form of like stage art, you might say. In other words, it, as far as I know, it originated kind of in these movies in the olden days, like in the 50s, where they tried to be like big production was their whole vibe they were going for. And so they'd have, dancers, like dancing girls all kicking their legs, right? Like that kind of thing. And then they'd have synchronized swimming girls all going like this. As far as I'm concerned, synchronized swimming exists as a theatrical device like that, Here's the thing, Leaf Trimmer. Again, it's an NI ignoring thing. Generally, I will sing along with lyrics for things I had historically anyway, without ever really listening to them. So in other words, the word, like I have a long history of meow, meow, meowing the words for songs that I know the melody of, but not the words to. Because I just understand the vocals as primarily a musical element. Like I hear the sound of the tone of the vocals. I hear the very important issue of syllabication and meter of the vocals over the part, but I'm not paying attention to meaning so much because to me, for a long time, I genuinely just wrote whatever down as lyrics. Like I was like, lyrics don't matter. That's not the point. You're missing the point. The point is the song, which is you can replace the syllables with meow meow meow. It's still the same song. Lyrics don't matter, leaf trimmer. Well, now I understand better that lyrics matter a shit ton because most people don't listen to music like that. Almost nobody does. This I Promise You by NSYNC. I swear, me, 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 me. But it's a terrible song. So I don't care about. I'm not judging songs on their lyrics. I'm frustrated when I realize that the lyrics of a song offend me, and it hurts my experience of it. So there's this Mac Miller song that's pretty good, but I had to take it off of the playlist because it offended me ultimately. It's too much. It's not like I think it. When I say it offended me, I mean simply that the thing he's aggrandizing, I find to be a carelessness with others that typifies certain periods of young adulthood for certain kinds of people. I don't like I Swear. Tiny boys with oddly big heads. That's interesting. It is true that actors are often not very tall, the males, and they make them, but it doesn't matter because you can make them look bigger or whatever. Do you ever just seek answers, but then you're like, wait, what were my questions? Constantly, every day, forever, all the time? Is the answer to the question. So, last night I again worked with my student, and again helped him to lie. And I have this odd willingness to help people lie to get through TE hoops. So what I mean by that is, once again, last night, after the live stream, I meet with Jeffrey and his mom. And they said, what's a good topic for an essay for this? And I say, well, you should, I give them a couple of good topics. One is specifically that that take the quote that says, when we were individuals, all we had was rage. That this ex-professor says at the professor says at the end of the book, he says, basically, it used to be the people who were trying to oppress free expression were on this side, and we were on this side. Okay? But even though we were on the right, we were correct, all we did was yell at the bad guys. And now look at where we are. And I said, what you should do is take that quote and turn it into a critique of the contemporary vision of polarization and say the answer is to stop ideology testing. And that means to ignore whether or not something conforms with your own perspective about what the agenda should be, and instead focus on the law and talk to them about my politics messages and stuff. No, that's too political. So then I said, All right. Then let's do something like a theme about where the burden lies or where the onus lies. So in that book, the onus lies on the government to actively prevent people from thinking, so to speak. And the onus lies on the individual to prove a negative at any moment, namely that I don't have any books. You bust into my house and search it for books, and if I don't have any, then you let me go. If I'm sufficiently vacuous and banal, then I pass your test. Okay. So why don't you talk about how that links to the shifting paradigm on where the onus of responsibility lies and the need to apply these principles? Is that's too political. Okay, here, Jeffrey, you want me to make you another bullshit sandwich? Fine. Why don't you talk about how the fires in the book are really resonant of the damage done by racism and by allowing the dominant elite to continue to oppress the underclass and stuff. And I shit you not, it wouldn't surprise me if they use all the information they give them about that last one instead and write a paper about that at all. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Of course, is it every day? First, I have a big argument about what I say. And I said this at the end of the conversation. I said, this is what happens every day practically. I reach into my bag. I say, oh, you want something? Here, gold encrusted diamonds. Oh, you don't want that one? Oh, okay. Here, how about hunk of copper? No? You want the turd again? It has to be the turd? Definitely has to be made out of shit, right? Here you go. You know what I'm saying? It's weird. But I just think that like TE hoop jump throwing, the whole thing about TE is it's iffy on the boundaries of things, you know. It's like you do what you got to do to get done, you know. It's a fundamentally unprincipled frame of reference. It's instead a outcome-oriented frame of reference, you know. So I have that tendency, and I'm wrestling with it, you know. I have a tendency to say like, "Oh, you need me to, yeah, well, no problem," because that's a stupid thing. But I don't know. Maybe that's wrong of me to do that. I can't tell. Was there crazy drama last week? Well, last few days, I guess. You know, there's a very big stream. Like, it has a lot more views than the other ones around it. So if you go look at, I guess is it not possible for you to when you push videos, it doesn't divide them into live and upload it for you, does it? It does on the back end, but I don't think there's any way on the front end without like doing something like, you know, search parameters or something. I don't think there's any way for you to divide it. It doesn't divide it automatically into live and upload videos unless I make a separate list or something, right? Like, in other words, uploads includes both. Or you can add a live stream only grouping. Okay, I should probably do that. In the back end, it automatically splits them into uploads lives, and posts. The Spacey one is the big one if you haven't seen it. That's the big, exciting one. I like the way the back end divides it. I wish the back end of the channel would look more like the front of the channel, you know, so everybody could just access all the information and everything. But instead, apparently YouTube doesn't want you showing the back end to people. I was warned by a viewer one time after I made at the beginning of the channel, when I first made my first half cent, from that point on, I periodically did back end tours showing you how much money I made, everything there was to show back there. And then a viewer warned me that I could get in big trouble with YouTube for that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was warned. And so I haven't done it since. So anyway, sup, Nikola Christov. You know, Nikola is one of the few names that ends with an A that I assume is a male first. Can you think of any other names that end with A that you assume is a male? I can't think of any others off the top of my head. Okay, Luca. Luca, I've never known anybody named Costa or Sava. Sava doesn't sound like a name to me at all. It must be an Eastern European name or something. I've never heard that name before. Costa, it just sounds like Costa Rica to me, is what it makes me think of. Luca, I agree, is another name that ends in A that I think of as male. Slava, I don't think of as a name. I do think of Luca and Nikola as names, but I don't think of Costa, Sava, or Slava as names. Yeah, Winston's mom, and my desire is to maximize Rachel's getting what she wants and minimizing Rachel's carefulness in asserting what she wants, you know? And so when you're dealing with an INFJ, especially when you're dealing with a happy INFJ who feels genuinely happy with you, and you actually care about them, then you have to make sure to remember that there's a gap between when they get tired of something or are desirous of something, and when they reveal that in some fashion to you. And so it's like I try to kind of stay on top of it by remembering as often as I can to say, wait, let me stop there. What do you want to do? What do you want? But the thing is, what's great is that I love the way yesterday played out. Yesterday, I said, basically, I'm going to go take a bath. You want to have sex? And she said, no, I want a live stream. And I thought, that's fantastic. You know, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to own her. I want her to own the reality that she's my forever life partner. You know, I can't possibly imagine being with anybody else, and it hurts my heart to intuit that she's not as comfortable in the certainty of it as I am. So, I see her in general being still too considerate to me, maybe. Not like it's a problem, but just I'd hate to think that that my sort of effie dense bullheadedness has like caused her to have a poor experience. So I try to stay on top of that shit, That's true. I'm not worried about wronging her in any way. I'm just like hopeful for a reality where Rachel really feels full ownership of, I genuinely see us as a two-person team in life. So it's like she has a lot of prerogative, right? Like I'm not one to scold my partner for exercising their prerogative to do what they want, when they want, how they want, within certain, obviously there are certain exceptions, like I expect absolute fidelity, but I embrace the sevens worldview. The sevens worldview is worst thing you can do is interfere with somebody's playtime. Are you a magnificent natural wonder of Kittytown? Are you where the intersection of Kitty and Friendship's Road? I think so. Oh, wonderful kitty friendship, kittiness good and true and fine. Stick it in, pull it out, pop it in your mouth and pop it in your mouth. Yeah, I will transubstantiate a kitty pet. Oh, beautiful wonder. So glorious and good. Daddy's very impressed by your beauty. Yes, he is. Oh, yeah. You want me to close the door? Okay. She's skittish these days. There was a big cat fight the other day, and with Trouble, and ever since she's been iffy about inside outside. Like she wants to be chaperoned from one inside to the other inside. She's always on high alert before she goes outside. So I think Trouble must have won that last fight. I think she won the fight before that though. So I guess she's decided she no longer wants to battle with him for dominance. Maybe he must have. She has a little bald spot where she got like mad. She doesn't like catnip. She's not interested in it. I don't know. I would say that's just how it is. She's no interest in it at all. I guess some cats like it and some cats don't. The thing is, catnip is in the same general family as weed. So, when we showed her catnip, she's like, "Are you trying to pass that off as weed? Because that's not weed." That's my suspicion regarding it is that she's so accustomed to smoking background weed that catnip just looks like lawn trimmings to her. But I think that's why they like it. Is it's got that kind of weedy quality and smell to it, Anthrax scare. Well, wasn't it just somebody mailed some like random white powder, like baking soda or something? Is that what it turned out to be? I don't remember exactly the story. Yeah, other self, you got a good point. My cat might be more of a vapor. A really good point. I appreciate you sharing that with us. But Winston's mom, I just want to say I'm really glad that you blame Rosie O'Donnell for that. I think that seems totally fair. That seems totally appropriate to blame Rosie O'Donnell for an anthrax scare. Even if she didn't do it, probably whoever did it was watching her right beforehand and just said, the world's a terrible place. I don't like Rosie O'Donnell. I'm not sure why I don't like her. Yes, I am. It's because she's very opinionated and wrong. That's why. You can be very opinionated, fine, but you better be correct. Otherwise, you're just pooing at the choir, as they say. And that's the thing about this channel that Rachel and I are making. And today I have to go to the dentist, but after that I got the whole day to do some work. And then tomorrow I got a meeting with Cameron, and I want to have some things done before that meeting, which is partially why I set that meeting up, because I have to get some things done to be prepped for it. So I know I'll get those things done. But the thing is, anytime I make a video explaining cognitive functions correctly, I'm just preaching to the choir, because there's only ever going to be a certain small subset of people who prioritize understanding cognitive functions more correctly rather than more applicably, because it's nothing painful. It's a consultation, basically. In this conversation today, I'm going to find out, how much, like what my options are, what the dentist thinks about whether or not to just go ahead with the existing plan, which is get a partial for this, but there's a lot of other problems with my teeth right now. So I want to basically I want to walk out of the dentist appointment today with a bronze, silver, and gold options and decide, what to do, which is to say, if lady dentist, if I were to just say, you have free reign, do whatever you think you ought to do, what would that be? If I said, you have free reign, but a budget of what would you choose to do? And is there some option between and everything that's desirable, more desirable, cheaper than everything, both? So it's, yes, I did look at those at the document you sent me. But from what I understand, the kind of implants you can get for about $1,700 or something per implant are not the kind of implants I would need. So the basic question is this: like, I have a feeling if I just get this partial, then in another 3 months or 4 months, I'm gonna have to get the other side done, and then I have to get another partial, and then another 3 or 4 months to get the middles done and get another partial, and then I have to get a full one. So if that's going to be the case, then, well, that's, I'm done ideating. See, being an NE-DOM means knowing not to use extroverted intuition, in part. And once I realized that further thinking about this is dumb until I talk to the dentist, I've stopped thinking about it. So it's like that's one of the advantages of being an NEDOM is I don't use it when it's not a good idea to use it. I don't waste my time ideating about shit that further ideation is predicated on meow. And I just don't think about it until I get meow. Those are universal terms for values. So universally, values can be expressed in means or ends. This is true of the world universally. My application of it to cognitive functions is to say simply that when we talk about types and their values, we've made a big mistake thus far. Heretofore, we haven't made the distinction between instrumental and absolute values. It's not like, in other words, if there were some book that was called accurate dichotomies and taxonomies, it would be accurate to say there are two fundamental kinds of values: instrumental, means, and absolute, ends. Now, you could try to blur that line and say, well, some things are both. Or whatever, but no, it's like it's a pretty clear, bright line. I make coffee as a means to the end of having a cup of coffee. I do not make coffee for its own sake. I don't make a pot of coffee because I enjoy making a pot of coffee and then pour it out and make another pot of coffee, right? The distinction between means and ends is pretty indisputable. So the thing is, a lot of the cognitive function community has attempted to talk about cognitive functions in terms of values before, but has failed to make that distinction. And so that's one of the things I had to fix. The thing is, the most important thing for anybody who wants to understand why my cognitive function is different is that I approached it as a debate coach, right out the gate, which is to say the first thing I concluded was there's no solid case to be made here. There's just a powerful taxonomical tool language-wise. And I tried to play, I want in on the taxonomy making. And at some point I realized, I didn't notice that leaf trimmer. If I don't respond to something, then I didn't notice it enough for it to leave an imprint upon me to want to respond to it. Or else I would have, sometimes I do notice something and don't respond to it at the moment. And then I'll say, there's something I wanted to respond to back up there. If I don't say that, then that means the thing passed in front of my eyes and didn't register, more or less. I read it possibly, but I thought, that's one of those things that doesn't matter, and just ignored it. without trying to do so. Sorry, it was involved. Thank you. I appreciate your compliment. I don't mean to be rude at all. Sorry about that. It's just it's like it just happens. I automatically, some things go in one ear and out the other, Thanks, yourself. You have nice udders. Have I ever told you that? You're one of my favorite people to milk. Nothing is absolute? Well, I better stay away from nothing then. What do you mean nothing is absolute? What does that sentence mean? There is a word absolute that means something, right? So an absolute value just means it's an end in itself, not a means to an end. That's all it means. Have I noticed them? I've fondled them. I've switched over from powdered creamer to utter self's utter milk. Nothing certain except death and taxes. They call me left side no tooth. They call me old no tooth left side. I can show you the world. Spiraling, spinning, meow meow. Meow 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 meow. A whole new world. A new. Well, it's like basically a cognitive function stack goes absolute instrumental. On the back end goes absolute instrumental. But more in a more sophisticated understanding of it, really like your dominant function is both. So I use extroverted intuition as both a means and an end, depending on the circumstances. It's still used distinctly as one of those things in some sense, but because it's who I am, even if I'm not willfully using it as a means, it's how I be both successfully and unsuccessfully. So, it's like it's hard to call that one means or ends exactly. But the tool function is clearly valuing a daughter where you could use her instrumentally to step over a puddle. So like I say, well, like it's your daughter. You value her for herself, not because you can make her lie down on a puddle and walk over her back to keep your shoes dry, right? That's true. I don't remember ever this thing you're saying. I don't remember it at all. But if that's what I said, then that makes sense. Listen, it is absolutely, relatively absolute that you literally and figuratively have to either value something instrumentally or absolutely. Okay? Ever write that down? You should be taking notes. Yeah, and then the function is interpreted based on A versus I. So one of the reasons the 2-3 flip is such a good relationship is because what I want to do as a means, be correct, she values as an ends. So it's like if things aren't fair for me, if they're unfair in favor of her, I don't care at all. I really don't care at all. I'm not looking for fairness because my absolute value is other people liking me a lot, right? And if I can be the hero who like, go on without me, I'll stay here and fight off this guy to buy you time. If I can be that character in the anime, then when I finally beat that guy and meet back up with the group, and the guy is standing there, who's the main character, and he goes, like Devin and Mary are like, yeah, we did it, us three. We were there. We killed that guy. And the main character slams his mug down. And he points to me and he's like, if it weren't for that guy, we'd all be dead, And then they realize, oh, shit, he was so helpful. Yeah. Like, that's FE third versus TI third, which would go, well, why do I have to be the decoy? Or why do I have to have the smaller piece? Like I always give Rachel the best one of whatever it is that we make. Now that's because it's an absolute value, really. That's actually an absolute value. Like I don't say anything about it. I choose the best one because I more want her to go, wow, this is good. I like this a lot. Then I want to experience something good and liking it a lot. The experience I want to have is for her to be like like impressed with what I presented her or to enjoy it or something. How to stop gangbanging. A WikiHow article, How to Stop Gangbanging, made me think of my ESFP friend immediately. You know that old joke, people who throw orgies shouldn't live in glass houses? People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw orgies, I mean. So for those of you who just got here, let me tell you about the title. The reason the title is the title is because I woke up this morning hearing in my head and then eventually figuring out what it was from, the sound of somebody going, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." I woke up with the sound of it for some reason. And after a little bit of walking around and thinking about it, I realized, it's a quote from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Ferris Bueller's friend is talking to Principal Rooney, and Ferris Bueller, Principal Rooney thinks he's got Ferris Bueller pretending to be Ferris Bueller's girlfriend's dad. And then Ferris Bueller calls on the other line. So now Rooney thinks that this is actually Ferris Bueller's girlfriend's dad, and the Ferris Bueller's girlfriend's dad is saying that Ferris Bueller's girlfriend's grandfather has died, and she has to go to his funeral. And so Rooney's being a dick about it, convinced that this is Ferris Bueller. And then now he thinks, oh no, he actually really did die, and it's a really serious thing, and I was being a dick. The first thing he hears when he gets back on the phone is Ferris Bueller's friend, whose name I don't remember, saying, "Pardon my French, sir." Or not the first thing, but, "Pardon my French, sir, but you are an asshole." That's why I cry, lie, die, and sigh inside of my eye. Yeah, that. Thank you, Winston Small. That's what this is a reference to. And the reason Cameron is the friend. Thank you, Gen Xio. The reason I think I woke up with it in my head was because yesterday, I think I said that, not really being fully aware that it was a quote. I mean, being aware that it was a quote, kind of, but imagining it sort of to be like a famous thing that my dad would reference from an old movie he saw or something. And so I guess on some level inside, I knew I had misidentified that. And I woke up this morning having been asleep trying to figure it out, maybe. That's my hypothesis, I guess. Okay, look. We are definitely going to someday have a TWFP meetup in Helsinki. My first experience with the word Helsinki is Monty Python record, in which they talk about like some symposium or something, and it's like in Helsinki. You know, it's like one of those kind of BBC-ish things. Let me see what it is. Monty Python Helsinki. Yes, right. Carl Gruber of the Institute of Going a Bit Red in Helsinki. Are you embarrassed easily? Is the script. Are you embarrassed easily? I am. But it's nothing to worry about. It's all part of growing up and being British. This course is designed to eliminate embarrassment, to enable you to talk freely about rude subjects, to look at awkward and embarrassing things, and to point at people's privates. This course has been designed by Dr. Carl Gruber, of the Institute of Going a Bit Red in Helsinki. Here he introduces the course. Yeah, hello, my name is Carl Gruber. Thank you for inviting me into your home. My message is the result of 6 years' work here at the institute in which subjects were exposed to stimulated embarrassment predicaments, or prolonged fart. Do any of these words embarrass you? Shoe, megaphone, grunties. Now let's go on to something ruder. Wankle, rotary, engine. Now, lesson 2, noises. Noises are a major source of embarrassment. Even words like tits, winkle, vibraphone could not rival the embarrassment potential of sounds. Listen to this if you can. How do you rate your embarrassment response? A, hi. B, hello. C, good evening. If C, you are loosening up and will soon be ready for this. How do you rate that sound? A, embarrassed. B, hello. C, good evening. That's pretty good writing. That's pretty good writing. Eric, I had a dream where there was a series of car crashes and a suspicious man walking toward me, my old middle school, with a suspect big case. Okay, well, I'm not worried that your prescience has indicated a TWFP meetup is going to result in Reservoir Dogs. YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and back up utter self here on this one. Can you please stop deleting his funny? Yes, I'm aware of the aristocrats joke. Are you aware of my equivalent joke, which is called Book Fair? Festival of Books? I'll tell you my Festival of Books joke. So there's this lady who's super pregnant. Oh my God, I gotta get to the hospital. But she has nobody to drive her there, so she's driving herself. Okay. Now, Eric, my version, this joke is not dirty at all. Okay. It's my version of the aristocrats, but it's not dirty at all. So you don't have to worry about there being anything dirty about it. I saw this woman, she's super pregnant. And she needs to give birth at the hospital soon, like within the next hour, at the latest. So she's really in a hurry to get there, and but she has to drive herself because nobody is there to drive her. But she gets lost, and she drives into like it's like the annex part of a school, and she said, and there's a big sign there that says Festival of Books, Book Fair. And so she's like, "Oh, a book fair." So she pulls over and she gets out and she starts looking through the books in the book fair. And then she sees her mom. And she's like, "Mom, what are you doing here? I have to get to the hospital. I'm about to give birth." And her mom says, "Sweetie, it's the Festival of Books." And the daughter says, "I know." And the mother says, "Well, go on ahead to the hospital because I'll catch up with you pretty soon as I finish purchasing my books." And the other woman says, "Mom, you go on ahead to the hospital. I need to go to the Festival of Books too." That's it. That's my joke. That's my version of the aristocrats. But that's not a joke, Eric. Neither is the aristocrats. I mean, but nevertheless, probably like whoever wrote the aristocrats joke, that joke I just told, I used to not be able to tell that joke without fucking cracking up because I thought it was so funny. And I recognize it as one of those weird things that only I find funny, but I'm so accustomed to that joke now that I no longer find it actively funny. But I genuinely found that joke hilarious for quite a long time. I mean, but I totally understand that objectively to the external world, and from my own understanding, there's not funny about that joke because it has no punchline. There's nothing. It's just about two women who really love the book fair. That's what makes it funny. Because who doesn't love a festival of books? You just imagine it from childhood, all the colorful books, and I'm not going to miss the book fair. Are you? I don't think so. It's one of the funnest days of the year. Is that humor the same as ribbing humor to me? That humor, but that joke I made, no. I don't know what kind of humor that is. It's just something I found really funny one time, and still do find it funny. I don't know why. I just think it's a funny concept. Oh, the aristocrats? I don't. No, I don't dislike it or anything. I just I see it as the same thing as my joke. It's like whoever made it up knows why it's so hilarious, but I don't exactly. Well, that's just good joke telling style, is that means. Thank you for telling me that, though. I appreciate it. That's reinforcing that I'm telling the joke right. But and that kind of joke since it doesn't have a punchline, you just kind of have to find the concept funny, or you don't. Otherwise, anything that the aristocrats joke is somebody. Winston's mom, did you link it already? I think she already linked it. Maybe she often links things in extraordinarily helpful fashion. Yeah, Winston's mom already linked it. Bob Saget, the aristocrat joke. It's at 6:27 a.m. on my time zone. So therefore, it's almost certainly 27 in your time zone, unless you live in one of those weird time zones that has a difference. There are a couple that aren't the same in the minutes. Isn't that weird? I didn't know that until like maybe a year ago. There are a couple time zones where you have the minutes are different than there. Like I always thought, well, everywhere in the world, the minute is the same. The minute right now, wherever you are, is 33. But that's actually not true. There's a couple places where the minutes are different. Isn't that interesting? I found that interesting. Is a Swedish word? It's 23? It shouldn't be. I didn't know there were 10-minute differences. But maybe there are, It's half past meow. Yeah, it's 34 minutes past meow right here. 2:33 p.m. Monday, March 8th, Greenwich Mean Time. So I'm how many hours behind? Let's see. 8 hours behind Greenwich Mean Time. You're proud to be able to sing Bjork songs? Nicholas Sayin Thenengi. What is that? Oh, that's her lyrics? Well, okay. I'd be proud of myself for being able to sing those words too. because I don't know what those words are. You're 2 hours ahead of me. That means you're most of the way towards the East Coast. You know that song, bow, 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 with the cat? It's got EEAAIOOUU or something like that. It actually has lyrics, and you can't tell. You don't think it has any lyrics at all, and then when you that Nyan Cat song or whatever, AAEEIOUU. Then when you see the lyrics, you listen and you realize, oh, there are words there, and those are the lyrics. But until no, not Triumph of a Heart. I don't know what that is, but I'll find it for you. I'll link it here. What I'm talking about. What you talking about, Willis? I'll link it here what I'm talking about. It's on Chappie Tracks. So I'll find it there. It's down near the bottom. Oh, I've got it upside down, so it's not near the bottom, it's near the top. I've been ghosting. You know, I just realized, like yesterday, that that Fergalicious song is like such a sample of Supersonic. I can't believe I didn't realize it before then, but A-E-E-A-A-A-O-O-O is what the song's called. No, Supersonic is not by Salt and Pepper. Supersonic is by a one-hit wonder band that their first album and that song Dr. Dre produced, Supersonic, and then they never did anything after that. Salt and Pepper had a little bit more going on than that. Salt and Pepper had Shoop, which is a timeless classic of hoe empowerment. You know, I think we can all agree on that. Will everybody agree with me? Well, here I go again. Girls, what's my weakness? Men. Okay then, chilling, minding my business. Yo, so I looked around and I couldn't believe this. I swear, I stared. My niece, my witness. The brother had it going on with something kinda wicked. Had to kick it. I'm not shy, so I asked for the digits. Oh no, that don't make me see what I want to slide it swiftly. Feel it in my hip, so I dip back to my bag of chips and I flip for a tip. Make me want to do tricks for him. Lick him like a lollipop should be licked. Came to my senses and I chilled for a bit. Don't know how you do the voodoo that you do so well. It's a spell. Hell makes me want to shoot. Boop ba doop, boop ba doop, boop ba doop, doop 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 doop, doop ba doop, boop ba doop, bo bo bo. You're packed and you stacked, especially in the back. Brother, want to thank your mother for a butt like that. Can I get some fries with that shake booty? If looks could kill you, would be an Uzi. You're a shotgun. Bang. What's up with that thing? I want to know. How does it hang? Straight up. Wait up. Hold up, Mr. Lover. Like Prince said, you're a sexy mother. Well, I like him real wild. B-boy style by the mile. Blah, blah, blah. You know that song. Shoop, shoop, a doop, a doop, a doop. Well, let me bring me back to the subject. Peps on the set, make you want to get hot, make you work up a sweat. When you skip to my loo, my darling, I'm falling in love, but I'm falling for you. When I get you bottom dollar, bet you bottom dollar, you're the best under pressure, gotta get you with, but because it's time to have pep on your mark. Get this, let's go. Let me shoot to the next man in a 3-piece suit. I spend all my dough, Ray, me, cutie, shoop, shoop a doobie, like scuba dooby doo. I love you in your big jeans. You give me nice dreams. You make me want to scream. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I like what you do. When you do what you do, you make me want to shoop. Immortal words, immortal truths. Salt and pepper, you are the prophets of the 80s. Pepe Le Pew normalizes rape culture. The weird word there is normalizes. Pepe Le Pew depicts a guy who's totally ignoring the agency of the woman he's pursuing. In other words, he doesn't care what she wants at all. He doesn't care that she's made it very clear to him that she's a cat and does not want to have sex with a skunk. He doesn't give a fuck. Is it appropriate to critique that? Absolutely. Is it appropriate to call it normalizing rape culture? No. You might say it's not funny anymore because we've grown up a little bit since then. I think that would be probably the best critique to make of it. If it's not, I haven't watched it. It might still be funny. If it is funny, it doesn't matter, right? Is that your own lyric herself, or is that a quote of something? That's an example of how ENTPs act towards the INFJ. Pepe Le Pew towards the cat. Yeah, it's called not aging well, right? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't age well. Other stuff that doesn't age well are the cartoons that I used to watch when I was a kid, where they're World War II era cartoons, and they have very stereotypically racist depictions of Japanese people, or in general, there's this attitude in World War II. Well, I mean, it's not an attitude. It's just like the world hadn't grown up yet. I mean, I don't know. I have no fucking idea why anybody would ever do that. I heard a group of young people, like peers of Delilah, like at a party where Delilah and a bunch of her friends were. I heard them all talking about that subject. I'm just like, oh my God, why would one want to do that? Why would one want to have that done? It's like, I can't get away from the meaning, by which I mean, it's, there's no way in how I wouldn't gag and like want to throw up either way, if it were being done to me or if I were doing it to somebody else. Because it just makes me want to gag right now just thinking about it. Married with Children is my life example. Love that show to death, but now older Hootie and Kelly is pretty gross. Well, yeah, so that's condemning the behavior of the audience. So that's what it's like when objectifying young women is normalized, is Married with Children. Every time Christina Applegate comes out on the stage, everyone goes, wee, wee. Well, I mean, it's like, I mean, it's kind of, so it's like there was a time period when it used to be assumed that a woman would be flattered by any indication that you found her attractive. That, you know, a long time ago, it would be assumed that. But that assumption is and always was fundamentally false. People don't particularly want to be reduced to shit outside of their control, like their appearance. Of course, everybody has an appearance, and it always comes with some sort of baggage. So it's also the case that it's silly to necessarily pick out meow baggage over meow baggage over meow baggage is significant because of your subjective preference. You know, it's like, that doesn't age well. I agree. Richard Dawson kissing 16-year-old, 15-year-old girls on the lips in Family Feud doesn't age well, right? It's just like that's normalization as it plays out. Like, so in other words, with Richard Dawson, it was normalized that that cues indicating something skeevy couldn't possibly indicate something skeevy, basically. It wasn't so much that it was normalized that adult men should kiss 16-year-old girls on the lips, but rather that it wasn't skeevy at all. In fact, it wasn't, actually. Weirdly, if you research the thing, Richard Dawson was not a gross dude. He was just doing an actor's thing that doesn't age well. No, I don't think he really was, actually. From what I've researched it, and I made a video about it. In fact, I'll share with everybody my Richard Dawson video, in case you haven't seen it. He's actually a really not a womanizer at all. He was not a womanizer. What I'm saying is what had been normalized at the time was kind of a James Bondy coolness that would include what would now be considered totally presumptuous behavior with women. But he was sort of acting that part, and but he was not. He was a good guy. Here's my video on Richard Dawson. It's one of my stills and narration videos, which I make occasionally. TV and films Richard Dawson is one of old Hollywood's most interesting characters. He is best known for his work hosting the popular American TV game show Family Feud, where his peculiar habit of kissing contestants earned him the nickname the Kissing Bandit. Dawson would lean in and kiss each female contestant on the lips, sometimes more seductively, sometimes less so, at least the beginning of each episode. This behavior strikes contemporary viewers as odd at best, presumptuous certainly, and probably even creepy. Even at the time Dawson was questioned about it, he claimed that he kissed all those women for good luck. But is that really why? Talking with famous people. A quick review of Dawson's life reveals the man to be much more than your average game show host. Colin Lionel M. was born in England in 1932 to working-class parents. Though he had begun attending school in the late 30s, Colin's education was cut short by the onset of World War II, when his parents sent him to live in the countryside to avoid the German bombs.
School must not have suited young Colin much, because at age 14, when it was time to resume his studies, M ran away to join the British Merchant Navy. His real success therein had nothing to do with his nautical skills. The teenager became quite successful in shipboard boxing matches staged between crew members. So tough was the featured game show host that he earned almost $5,000 just from winning shipboard matches between the end of the war and 1950. That's over $50,000 in today's money.
But Dawson was a bit of a Renaissance man. Not only could he punch people in the face, he could also make them laugh. Colin Lionel M. emerged from the Merchant Navy intent on comedy and took on the moniker Dicky Dawson. He landed a few radio appearances before his first real break, a role on The Benny Hill Show. But his biggest brush with fame during this period was not fame of his own. Circa 1960, Diana Fluck was Britain's highest paid entertainer. Why? Because she was widely considered Britain's most knockout blonde bombshell, the English equivalent to Marilyn Monroe.
Dawson, meanwhile, was a born hustler. He had begun his Dicky Dawson career by pretending to the producers that he was already a famous comedian. And when Diana Fluck asked him to manage an appearance on a Los Angeles talk show, Dicky pulled a similar trick. He presented himself as the longtime host of London's most successful talk show and indicated that he was unimpressed with the Los Angeles operation. Before long, the producers hired Dawson to host the show, and the bombshell sought services from Dawson of a much more sensual nature. Yep, Dicky had landed the supermodel. They married and moved to LA for his new job. 1963 was a good year for Dawson. He outgrew Dicky to become Richard and landed spots on high-profile shows including The Jack Benny Show and The Dick Van Dyke Show.
But while the relationship may have been significant to the launching of his career, it also produced a great deal of scandal when the couple divorced in 1964. Among the accusations made by Diana were that Dawson
threatened to beat the hell out of me,
and that
he made me a prisoner in my own home.
Dawson was awarded custody of his two sons, and while the times were such that his ex-wife Diana was broadly condemned as a mother who had abandoned her children, Dawson himself called her decision a kindness and indicated that the presence of the children helped him survive a very dark 14 months after she left.
1965 to 1971 saw Dawson cast in military roles. He parlayed a bit part in POW film King Rat into his first big TV gig as Corporal Peter Newkirk in the popular comedy Hogan's Heroes. Then, in 1968, Dawson played Private Hugh MacDonald in The Devil's Brigade. But Dawson seemed determined to be more than just a tough guy. He'd gone from boxer to comic in the 50s. Then the 70s saw Dawson's career mirror his early life, as he went from acting back to making people laugh.
Dawson was added to the cast of Laugh-In near the end of the franchise, but in his brief stint, he impressed enough to catch the eye of pioneering game show producer Mark Goodman. Goodman first cast Dawson on Match Game 73, along two game show celebrity stalwarts, Charles Nelson Riley and Brett Somers. Beginning in 1976, Goodman then called on Dawson to take on the newly created Family Feud. The show was a hit. It took less than a year for the Family Feud and Richard Dawson to defeat the Match Game in the ratings. Of course, it was during this time that Richard earned his nickname, the Kissing Bandit. So let's get back to that habit of his where he kissed on the lips each of the multiple women contestants competing on every episode of the show. Contemporary viewers tend to find his presumption appalling. But it should be noted that network executives back in the day were none too happy about it either. They repeatedly tried to get Dawson to stop. Instead, the host reached out to the viewers and asked them to write in and vote on the matter. The nearly 200,000 responses overwhelmingly favored Dawson continuing to kiss all the women and often teenage girls who came on the show. But why? That's, after all, the title of this video. There's a sensible reason for that apparent insanity, isn't there? A few possible explanations emerge. Foremost, reason one, the obvious. Richard Dawson was a lustful fellow imposing himself on females in the days long before #MeToo. Possible, but not really supported by the evidence. For one thing, he was very much an equal opportunity kisser, smooching even very old ladies. For another, he wasn't generally known as a lecherer, and in Hollywood, news gets around. Possible reason number two, alcohol. Dawson was a bit of a drunk. Kirk Fuller, who co-starred with Dawson in the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, The Running Man, recalls Richard's time on the set. Dawson started every day with a big glass of orange juice that was only half orange juice, and he would drink that all day. I think that's just how he got through the movie, unquote. So what of this possibility? Also doubtful, because while it certainly seems plausible that a drunken Dawson's impaired judgment might have played a role in some wild decision to kiss a contestant one time, it wouldn't explain his long-term persistence in the behavior. After all, if it represented impaired judgment, why would he have been so consistent in kissing all of the women for the entire duration of the first run of the show? A possible third reason is that in the lips of these myriad women, Dawson really sought a flicker of the love he had once had, but had lost. His first wife, after all, had been the drop-dead gorgeous Diana Dors, and if People magazine is to be believed, Dawson had quite a difficult time getting over her indeed. The November 21st, 1977 edition reports on Richard's love life as follows, quote, "He still totes enough of a torch to keep pictures of his first wife on the walls of their original Benedict Canyon home and to send flowers faithfully every birthday. Her latest was number 45. I always thought there'd be a lady after Diana," he says, "but it just hasn't worked out that way," unquote. If this is indeed why he kissed all those ladies, it worked better than he had expected, because in 1981, Dawson met his future second wife, Gretchen Johnson, when she was a contestant on The Family Feud. And yes, he kissed her, just like everyone else. The couple were married in 1991, a year after the birth of their daughter, Shannon Nicole. The first run of The Family Feud ended in 1985, but Dawson would have another crack at hosting in 1995 when the network asked him to replace Ray Combs, as ratings had begun to plummet under the new host. But this last stint, Dawson would engage in no kissing. He explained that he had made a promise to his daughter not to kiss anyone but Mommy.
At the age of 79, Richard Dawson called out Survey Says for the last time. The date was June 2nd, 2012. The survey?
Things happening to Richard Dawson today.
The number one answer on the board?
Death by esophageal cancer.
I can only assume that as a man who smoked 4 packs a day until he was 61 and who mixed vodka and OJ at a 1-to-1 ratio, Richard Dawson felt pretty smug about the whole thing. One last surprising tidbit to finish off the video. Richard Dawson cut a psychedelic record while working on Hogan's Heroes. Probably just as well he didn't stick with music, but we'll let you be the judge. Without further ado, an excerpt from Apples and Oranges by Richard Dawson, released on Carnation Records in 1967.
Apples and oranges, apples and oranges, orange and red, and light overhead. Apples and oranges, apples and oranges, pick them for me, because I am dead.
Talking with famous people. That was good. I enjoyed that. I was watching it from over there, standing over there watching it. I mean, it's pretty clear to me that Richard Dawson was an ENTP and not a womanizer and not doing that for any lecherous reason at all. That he was, in fact, the one who was the good partner in his first relationship with that hot chick, that she was some kind of SFP who bailed because she wanted to fuck around. And he was grateful to her because she left him the kids. And and he needed them, and he wanted the custody of them. You know, it reminds me of me. You know, I mean, keep in mind, Leaf Trimmer, you're talking about a quick peck on the lips of the sort that is common as a greeting in some countries. That, while that was normalized as a behavior back then in that context, we have to actually evaluate it on its merits. You know, as it appears to us today, it's awful, right? But when we research it and look at it, I mean, I'd have to see some sort of evidence that a girl tried to not be kissed and was compelled to, or requested not to be kissed and was told that's not allowed, or something like that. I don't, even if they were uncomfortable, I don't remove from them their okay, well, look, Leaf Trimmer, you're not paying attention to the person at all, are you? You're not judging Richard Dawson as a human being at all. You're judging the appearance of something against today's standards. Note, he asked the viewers of the show to vote on the matter because the producer said, we don't like that. Can you stop doing that? And he said, okay, well, let's see what everybody says. And it was a landslide in favor of it's harmless, keep doing it. Leaf Trimmer, did you just watch the video I made? Did you just watch the video I made? And yeah, people are made uncomfortable on live TV all the time for various reasons. The fact that it's like if I were to do a TV broadcast with anybody, I'd be aware of the fact that I would have to be uncomfortably close to them. Lee Trimmer, I found all the images I could find to include. I didn't want to have to repeat any images, but I did have to repeat them because I found all the images I could find. I didn't look at clips because I didn't want to run into copyright stuff, so I didn't look at video clips of footage of him kissing women, but I tried to find every still image I could and every GIF. And so, I mean, look, I agree that now we understand that it's not appropriate to kiss someone else's child, really, ever, okay? But that doesn't make him a bad person. And it's like, as a society, including Richard Dawson, we were wrong about that back then. Why are we singling him out when there was a landslide vote in favor of him continuing to do it? Yeah, Leaf Trimmer, you're nuts about this shit, dude. Seriously. Richard Dawson was clearly a sensitive ENTP, not at all a womanizer, and an incredible, loving father, and basically, you know, probably had a few encounters, but basically didn't sleep with people between his first wife and his second wife. From what I can read, everything I can read about it, I've researched the matter considerably. He was focused on being a good father. No, 69 Cuda, you keep forgetting that every TV show is the decision of a specific party with an interest. Okay? There's no TV czar directing how networks propagandize people. Okay? It doesn't work like that. That's not the real world. That's your imagination. You're imagining shit like Leaf Trimmer. You're displaying your terrible, terrible, terrible NI. I mean, I'll say Richard Dawson was a good person who was part of, like, for example, was my PE coach a bad person for telling all the boys in middle school to get naked and take showers together? No, Lisa, I'm not biased. I'm making real arguments here. You're not making real arguments. I'm saying real things that you're not responding to. Should we condemn my middle school PE coach and every other person who had that job during that time period? I agree with you, 69 Cuda, that look, here's the thing. For you people to be talking to me about this as though you're informed about the subject and I'm not, is like a couple of ducks coming up to me telling me how they're going to teach me how to play the piano. Just yesterday, I talked with my client about the fact that the paper I wanted him to write about comparative religions, for his comparative religions paper, the topic I suggested that he was going to not be allowed to do it because it was critical of Islam. And not even directly critical of Islam, critical of any frame of reference that subsumes the secular with the sacred. Leaf Tremor, hear what I'm saying? Any frame of reference that subsumes the appropriate purview of the secular with the sacred is ideological and bad. I am on point. I'm absolutely on point. I get it. It's at 9. It's in 2 hours. Is it 9:30? Let me look at my calendar. Is it 9:15 and 9:30? 9:30. My point is this. It's the paper I wanted Jeffrey to write yesterday. Okay, but again, his mom said, no, that's too political. That's going to cause problems. At the end of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, the purported good guys, namely the college professors who've been forced to live as hobos because books have been banned and stuff, right? He says, when we were individuals, all we had was rage. And what I want the world to understand is that basically the opposite of that. When we see ourselves as part of a group or a side, all we have is rage. It's time to grow up and own your identity, which means it's time for every American to police themselves and say, okay, I can no longer play the blame game. It's doing real damage. I'm going to have to be a grown-up now and vote for Eric. I mean, I actually agree with you, 69Q, the university is shutting down free speech. So if you're trying to troll me with that, do you mean you don't actually believe that or what? I mean, I'm not sure. Okay, Leaf Trimmer. Well, you know, I have concerns about anyone who spends as much time thinking about adults having inappropriate relationships with children as you do. You spend way too much time thinking about that. But he specifically told a large group of 12 and 13-year-old boys to take off all their clothes and get into the showers. He did enforce these rules. You have to shower. So, yes, he did look around and make sure everybody was in the shower at least. So, In other words, he should only get in trouble if he enjoyed it. Well, that's why we don't have executive orders. Like, they work like that. That's why we shouldn't have that, right? My job is to curtail the power of the executive in making arbitrary dictatorial decisions. So it's wrong to prohibit critical race theory training. Not training. Oh, training. Yeah, no, that's right. That's a good thing to do for sure. It is right to prohibit critical race theory training for federal agencies and federal contractors. Absolutely correct. But it is not correct to say that we should dictate to the universities what they should teach or something, right? Even if they're totally wrong. There's the good news, everybody. I've got some Lee Trimmer, before we ever got to the topic of Richard Dawson, you were talking about shirtless scenes with Matthew Broderick and Hollywood executives. So don't try to tell me it wasn't on your mind at all, since it's one of the first things you said this morning. And that's called decisively winning a point. Yeah, I mean, I agree it's a great decision to ban. That is ridiculous. But the thing is, here's the problem. It's much better to win the argument than to win the fight. Trump won the fight. Now Biden wins the fight. Next president comes in, then he wins the fight. Let's win the argument instead. That's a meaningful thing to do. I will win the argument. I will say, okay, I'm totally willing and interested in hearing why I should have critical race theory training for federal executives. Make your case. Make it publicly with me right now in front of me. Make it. Let me ask you questions. Okay. So it doesn't make any sense at all, does it? That's a bad idea, isn't it? You're evil, right? Okay, so in other words, everything I mention, you can think of some sort of story that links to it about Hollywood pedophilia. That means you spent way too much time thinking about it. What do you know about Pretty in Pink? What happened on Pretty in Pink? What happened in Breakfast Club? I bet you know something about those things. What happened in the Twilight Zone movie where there was an accident where those kids died? What was really going on there? Of those movies I just named, how many people involved in those movies are also involved in Hollywood's evil schemes? I bet you have answers to these questions. The fact that you have answers to these questions means you are wasting your time and not thinking well. Yeah. Oh, that's what that is. Voila equals voila. I think voila is O first, or is it I first? I think you wrote viola. And you wrote viola. Voila is VOIL. But I don't blame you for writing viola. I might have spelled it that way too. Bye, utter self. Thanks for saying bye. You don't have to do that, you know. Find a ghost. Maybe even preferred. Who knows? Everyone's got their own preference. Me, I like to fuck a Gila monster. My sexuality is that I like to have sex with Gila monsters. And let me tell you, the thing that makes it so thrilling is it's very dangerous. There's always the risk they're going to turn around and bite you. And that's where the sexual stimulation comes from. Sean O'Neill, nobody could dispute any of those three things as good. The best idea he had, because if your memory is filled with information about how meow person might have engaged in meow relationship with underage meow, then you've spent too much time thinking about it. Like, are you doing anything about it? No. So why are you researching it so much? Even if you're right about it, you're trying to form it into some sort of cabal, some sort of conspiracy, some sort of impossibility. Like, in other words, you're trying to make monolithic what is fundamentally not monolithic. And so as a consequence, it's bad thinking. That's all there is to it. I didn't say everything you say is nonsense, did I? I mean, I do say things like that, but I don't think I said it this time. Well, with Hollywood, you clearly use the term to imagine a group of people who are fairly monolithic, and that's simply totally not the case. Watch BoJack Horseman and get an idea of how the entertainment industry actually works. So, Lee Shermer, you're now saying you want to know and judge people and the things they do based on the motivation of the person who made the decision, but there's no way to possibly know the motivation of the person who made that decision. And so then you research this person, see if they're involved in dirty shit. Even if they are involved in dirty shit, they might not have made that decision for that reason. I mean, I don't find the motivation thing over reason to be an FI thing. I find it to be an NI thing. Both, even INTJs assume there's a motivated well of willful malevolence behind things, even though they're not FE. So I don't think it really has anything to do with the Fs. It's basically understanding things through an interface approach and a knowledge approach rather than a deliberation and action approach. So if you're used to being an interface or a knowledge person, then instead of deliberating, you use your heuristics and you intuit patterns and stuff like that, or you use your memories or whatever. But as a consequence, if you don't willfully choose to think well, you'll mistakenly apply that NI in places where it doesn't work right. It still gives you answers though, but they're all false positives. So that's what I'm saying is that the patterns that apply in relatively closed systems allow us to correctly intuit things, either relatively closed systems or relatively finite scope, right? So in other words, if I walk in on a crime scene, it's both finite in scope and finite in variables. It's also has a clearly defined frame. I'm trying to figure out something specific. Tiny Man 66, I'll hug you. There. You know what? I'm gonna do a finish solid. Turn around. I'm gonna hit you with that stick in the sauna with the leaves on it. There. Doesn't that feel better? Now I'll pour water over you. Okay. It's funny how there was this guy that owned every onion in the United States for a while. And because of that guy, now you're legally not allowed to trade onion futures. No, I'm not saying you're making the claim that it's definitely that. Okay. I'm saying that the thing you're worrying about, whether it was done because the person who made the decision was motivated by meow or was motivated by meow, you can't know. So then you look to a pattern of some sort and try to say, see, this is another example of a pattern. That's how we can intuit for sure it's probably motivation, meow. But that's backwards because unfortunately, the thing you're trying to intuit down from is itself wrong because that kind of system isn't subject to the kind of pattern application you're doing. So that's what I'm saying. That's why you question that aspect of the question, not why. I'm not saying you hold that position necessarily. I'm saying the reason you're fixated on that aspect of the question, the wrong aspect, namely the motivational aspect, is because of this, it's consistent with knowing interface approach in general. And believe me, I'm not shitting on, say, NI-DOMs, right? At all. I'm not shitting on NI-DOMs. I'm just saying when they're wrong, it's because of this phenomenon. And, it is possible to teach yourself, to police yourself about it. So you're doing that right now, Leaf Trimmer. You're learning that your NI isn't very reliable. Well, I'm not talking about investigation, assumption, conclusion, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about system dynamics. So in other words, some systems are subject to some kinds of approaches successfully, and some systems are not. So let's use probability, for example. If I have a regular 52 card deck of 52 card playing card deck, then and I pull a card out, there's a 1 in 13 chance that it's going to be an ace. Okay. So whatever the percentage of that is, I don't know. Let's say, what's 1 in 13? It's more than 5%, but less than 10%. So let's call it like 8% or whatever. 8% chance of drawing an ace. Now, you put that card back into the deck, you shuffle it, you draw a card again. Again, you have an 8% chance of drawing an ace. The reason you have an 8% chance of drawing an ace is because you are repeating independent trials. And when you repeat independent trials, probability is meaningful statistically. Okay? When the weatherman says there's a 50% chance it's going to rain, he's not saying words that mean anything because a day is not an independent trial that gets repeated. So it's not subject to that kind of statistical analysis. This is one simple example of understanding system dynamics as being determinate rather than being frame locked by your own reflexive understandings. So, that it's like, the gambler's fallacy. Well, it's come up red 10 times in a row on the roulette wheel. It's bound to come up black next time, bound to come up black soon. That gambler's fallacy is an example, is exactly the same sort of thing as you're doing. It's, in other words, you've got the wrong frame of reference. The reason it's come up 10 times red in a row has nothing to do with probability. Like, in other words, the roulette wheel doesn't remember that it's done 10 in a row. For this spin, it's still just a 50-50 chance of red or black. Not quite because of the greens, but you get what I'm saying, right? So we can understand that concept pretty easily. I can teach that to most people, the gambler's fallacy, that just because the roulette wheel has come up red 10 times in a row doesn't mean it's more likely to come up black next time, right? Do you understand that, Leaf Trimmer? You understand the gambler's fallacy, right? I just want to I'm trying to make progress here. So can you just confirm that you do understand why that's a fallacy? No, he's saying that what he's really saying is that if it rains tomorrow, don't be surprised. If it doesn't rain tomorrow, don't be surprised. That's what he's saying. But in no way should you interpret a 50% chance of rain of meaning it will rain in 50% of the total area. And the other 50% will get zero rain. That's just insane. that is making a defense attorney's solipsistic kind of defense of the weatherman in that instance. What I would call extensional pruning, Winston's mom. If you're defending the weatherman's probability claims by saying he's actually claiming that there's 100% chance it'll rain in half of the areas, it's both a bad argument and an example of extensional pruning. I didn't proclaim either of them. I wasn't proclaiming anything, Leaf Trimmer. I was saying you posited regarding something that there are two possible explanations. I'm saying both of those explanations you're positing indicate that you're using the wrong thinking approach in this context. I'm going to give you a comparable example. So the wrong thinking approach in a gambling situation where you're playing roulette is to make the gambler's fallacy. And it's exemplary of what it means to have the wrong frame of reference for a given approach. I'm saying is you're doing a comparable thing with how you're approaching these questions. You're attempting to, you intuit the answer first, and then you attempt to prove it. That's backwards. Instead, you should intuit a possibility and try your hardest to kill it. If it still survives, then, okay, maybe there's something worth looking at there. If it's useful in establishing something you can sustain. If you're just swimming around a bunch of NI phantoms, there's nothing you can sustain, and there never will be. You're never going to find that smoking gun because you're looking wrong. Okay, fine. Cool. I accept that, Leaf Trimmer, that my previous thing about what you were saying about proclaiming it was not a fair critique of you because it wasn't directed towards me at all. And so, and I played a little slippery thing there, which is I took a claim you made in your argument with Skygear and tried to use it as a claim you made in your argument with me, which is pretty slippery. So my bad there. Lauren Cuthbert, you know what? I'm going to do you one better. Great afternoon to you. Great afternoon to you, Lauren Cuthbert. Have you decided on which other two yet for your threesome? Is it going to be Stan and Judy? You know, they're in their 40s, but they're fit. Is it going to be, oh shit, you beat me. I thought I had that one already. That's premature celebration on my part. I thought I had the what's that called? What's it called? Like, you know, greater, greatest, those things. What's that called? I forgot the word for it. Superlatives. I thought I had won the superlative contest, but no. Turns out the buzzer beater by Lauren Cuthbert defeats me. Thank you, Sean. I'm sure you were quick enough. It's just there's a little bit of a lag. Eric and Bernie. Oh. Have you ever seen the film Chasing Amy? Leaf Trimmer, have you ever seen the film Chasing Amy? If there's one film I recommend for you, Leaf Trimmer, it's Chasing Amy. Amy? Not in the movie. She's not at all a lesbian in the movie. You mean the actress who plays Amy in Chasing Amy is a lesbian? What does that have to do with anything? No. Chasing Amy is by far the best movie from the guy who made Mallrats and Kevin Smith. It's Kevin Smith's by far best movie. And in that movie, Kevin Smith plays a guy who you might call a leaf trimmer, who meets this perfect girl, and he loves her a shit ton. And then he finds out that back in high school, she had a nickname, Finger Traps, because she got tag teamed by two guys one time. And the main character can't handle it. He can't handle that reality. And he ends up trying to say, the only way I can fix this is if I get to do that to you too with my friend, because otherwise I'm not, some other man's outmanned me or something. And he ends up losing her. And the lesson to be learned is when we marry our meanings too much, we forget to look at the human being in front of us. Yeah, it's like in the song Gerald Has a Lot, I say the third part, I don't know if you call it the verse or what, but the chorus or the bridge or what, but is it's and Gerald knows he understands ever more clearlier now. He can't provide explanation, explaining the why or the how. Anyway, ever more clearlier is an example of that. Of adult baby talk, right? Actually, Ben Affleck, I feel bad for him. Ben Affleck has a alcohol problem, or at least I don't know if he has it at the moment or not, but he's an alcoholic, and I always feel bad for them because it's something I can identify with. I have SI experience of being there myself, and so I'm more able to FI, put myself in their shoes, I guess, than probably anybody else. I guess I feel more sympathy for people with alcohol problems than just about anybody else, which suggests that, in fact, the stronger the SI linkage, the more the stronger the 4-slot linkage, the more somebody's able to maybe reach some version of their 7th slot. At least it does in me. I don't know if that applies. Who lost what on Bill Maher with Sam Harris? Listen, Sky Gear, I need you to be either necessary or less fastidious, either more necessary or less fastidious. Because right now, you're both unnecessary and fastidious, and you know the rules around here. You got to either be necessary or unfastidious. That was the voids talking. I'm going to cop that, Sean O'Neill. Like next time, I go to the store and can I get 2 packs of Marlboro Reds? And they give me hundreds. And I say, actually, can I get shorts, please? Sorry, that was the voids talking. I'm like super calm and polite. That's a funny joke. I mean, sure, not as funny as my hilarious book festival joke, but regardless. Have you ever noticed that people come up to me and ask me if I hate it when I don't know what the deal with something is? I have. I'm host Eric. Well, of course, whenever I see necessary or and blank, I always think necessary and sufficient, or sufficient and necessary, or necessary but not sufficient, or insufficient and necessary. Sufficient but unnecessary. Like I think of those combinations. So I like the idea of necessary and fastidious because, well, that's fastidious but unnecessary. Or like, it's necessary but not fastidious, which means basically, if you want to be fastidious, it's necessary for you to do this, but insufficient, really. It's a very specific instance of a necessary and insufficient. You don't like the word facetious? My mom used that word a lot. She used it, I think, because FE tool, she found sarcastic too harsh sometimes. In other words, if someone's being sarcastic to you and you're FE tool, you'll say, please don't be so facetious, which is a euphemism that's like super FE. It's like, I'm so FE, I won't even call your sarcasm. So I can see why you don't like the word. Like when you tell someone she's the most beautifulest girl in the whole wideish worldish, talkish baby talk. Well, I like to tell Rachel that she's constantly re-astonishing me again with her beauty for the first time forever without stopping. It's a little bit different. A lot of contradictions in there that really makes you think. A lot of paradox. The best way to be wise in your sayings is to contradict yourself directly. That creates an enigmatic vibe that convinces people you're wise. The best way to be strong is to show weakness. Guys, did you hear that? Did you hear that wisdom? Truly, the best way of being yourself is to be someone else. I don't get it, but it's saying something and I don't get it, so it must be hidden wisdom back there. And it's like, I think a lot about this particular thing because it's, you and I share this, except I'm past it, right? Like I have that same sort of attitude. I feel more able to explain your attitude than you will ever be able to. Like, it's basically this. There's this fear in nice guys, decent guys, guys who don't want to treat sex lightly. Okay, there's this fear within us that while we're not playing the game of debauchery, the girls that we are eventually going to end up with are, we're imagining the women being wholly enthusiastic participants in some sense in this whole process. It's like this is the scenario that we imagine and fear. It's like, we're not good enough for these chicks. Then while we're not good enough for them, while they still are young and hot, they're going out and getting what they really want, which is massive schlonged ESTPs to rock their world all night long. And they've got their whole 20s worth of that. And then when they lose their super hotness and those studs aren't going after them anymore, they go, oh, whatever, I guess I'll settle for a nice guy. and then they get with the nice guy the whole time, knowing that this guy will never be as much of a man as all these guys I fucked during my 20s, but he's reliable, so he can have the leftovers of those guys. So that's the fear. Yeah, Alicia Moran, you got to lose the sort of moral objection to people. I share with you a general hesitation about people treating sex too lightly, but I do not share with you at all this notion that having sex with another man, if that's what you want to do, is inherently an example of taking sex too lightly. In other words, I accept the fact that some other human being might have a meaningful, healthy, long-term, intimate relationship in ways that I wouldn't, right? In other words, I'm judging on the right metrics, not the wrong ones. Once again, you're making a gambler's fallacy sort of thing, using the wrong frame of reference for you're using the same frame of reference for questions that require different frames of reference. So in other words, while it may be true that I personally I'm sensitive about the importance of sex, and I find it unwise in general to take it too lightly. But I don't think that means that people who enjoy having sex with particularly obese women, that there's something wrong with them because that's their thing, or so they get in a relationship with a big woman because that's what they like. I don't think, well, that's not how I would have my intimate relationship, so it's wrong. Same thing if a dude wants to get with another dude. I don't think, well, that's not how I'd have my intimate relationship, so it's wrong. If I were gonna try to judge it according to some sort of moral judgment, it would be like I judge the guy who fucks a lot of chicks the same way as I judge the guy who fucks a lot of dudes. They're both hoeing it up too much, in my opinion. So it's like you got to judge the behavior, right? Not the ontology. Because everybody's entitled to their own ontology. Behavior is the acting of a subject. And being a subject means behaving in a way that subjects you to some sort of scrutiny. Whereas identity is not something that you should be subjected to scrutiny about. This is basic stuff, for Christ's sakes. But I get that you're young. No, I know you hold men accountable, but you definitely don't think that look, but the thing is, a gay man in a long-term monogamous relationship is, to you, wrong in the same way that a dude banging a bunch of chicks successfully is. And yet, at the same time, interestingly, you thought that the lead singer of the Outfield seems like a nice guy. When I said the reason I found him to be a sleazebag, I quoted his words. I said the lyrics of his song are, I like my girls a little bit older because I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose it. I just want to use it. In other words, I'm talking about this guy who's explicitly said in his song that he's just looking to hit it and quit it, and older chicks he can manage to pull that off with more. He wants to spend as little time getting to know the person as possible. He made that explicitly clear in the song, and you say he seems like a nice guy. I mean, that's at some point you gotta check yourself, right? And you gotta say, all right, I'm looking at the wrong kind of cues. What people say, what they do, Those are the right kind of cues. Your insistence that it fit into one of your existing boxes, wrong kind of cues. Now, I gotta go. I'll see y'all later, stater, pater, waiter, dater. Again, leaf trimmer, you just did it again. It doesn't matter what his motivations are. We judge people's actions and words, not their motivations. You're doing it wrong.